Hello everybody and welcome to my presentation for Assessment 2. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Noongar Whadjuk people of where Curtin University resides, and the Goolagin people of where this assessment has been completed. I honour and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. I understand, respect and appreciate their culture, beliefs and relationships with the land. As a future educator, I will ensure all values, beliefs and experiences are fostered within a safe learning environment to create positive reconciliation. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander viewers are warned that some of the content in this presentation may contain sensitive material and images of people who may have passed away. The Nullapita Remote Community School is situated in the Kimberley region in a community called Coorabye and is one of the most remote and isolated schools in the Kimberley. The school first opened its doors in December of 2003 and currently has a cohort of 15 students. The school is made up of 2 large-sized classrooms, a kitchen, a sports and gardening shed, a library, and administration office and the principal's office, and is well equipped with the latest resources and technologies to teach students. The school's name originates from the nearby Billabong, which is the heart of the local community. The community shares 1 square kilometre of Kayla Station, which is around 190 kilometres from Fitzroy Crossing. In order to access the community, local staff, students and various service providers must travel 95 kilometres off the Great Northern Highway, which in the Kimberley wet season can mean the community is inaccessible. Nullapita Remote Community School has established a distinct and strong emphasis on literacy and numeracy, and more specifically, closing the gap between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. Similarly, all students attending the school have individual learning plans and access to special education needs. Many students who attend this school speak English as a second language. Thus, Walmatjari is the traditional language spoken by members of the community, although most of the students at the school speak Creole as their first language. Nullapita Remote Community School are undertaking a project on biological sciences with direct links to other areas such as literacy and numeracy through the investigation of local animals and plants in the community and how they are dependent upon the environment in which they live. The students are exploring this project due to the interest of sheep, cattle, wildlife and various vegetation on the nearby station and Billabong, are a source of food and income for the community and a source of food for other local wildlife. The Year 4 children will attend an excursion around the local community to examine animals and plants, predator and prey relationships, and learn about the land and its features. This excursion is accompanied by an Indigenous community member to ensure that the investigation of local land is done in a culturally respectful manner. Students will then be required back in the classroom to create a reflective writing piece on their findings, sought out from the excursion. According to the Australian curriculum, the content descriptor code of ACS SU 073, how living things depend upon one another to live, relates to biological sciences. This code states that children should be able to further investigate the role of living things upon a particular environment, observing predator to prey relationships and having the ability to predict what will happen when living things used as a source for food die out. This all links back to the proposed task with context to the local area of Kayla Station and the local Nullapita Billabong. This content descriptor code also recognises how Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people view themselves and the community as being an important part of the environment. In regards to literacy, the task reflects many aspects. The Australian curriculum states that children in Year 4 should understand multiple traditional Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander stories, books, and multimedia texts and films as models for creating their own work. Students in Year 4 should also be able to understand the oral narrative language of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that is specific to a community, with the content descriptor code of ACE LA1487, then further incorporating this into their own work. In regards to the Australian curriculum, students should be able to create various informative, persuasive and imaginative pieces of writing with the content descriptor code ACE LY1694. This further relates to the proposed task where students create their writing piece. There are multiple aspects of this lesson that reflect numeracy as well. The Australian Curriculum Year 4 subheading of Statistics and Probability are seen throughout this task. These include chance, such as the chance of everyday events. This is seen when assessing the activities of wildlife and vegetation in the excursion carried out in the project. Data representation and interpretation are also very present. This is seen when students are collecting evidence to complete the reflective writing piece and ranking, peer assessing others' work. Equally important, cross-curriculum priorities of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures are present in the task, with a content descriptor code of OI.2. This cross-curriculum priority states that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have a sound relationship with the local land. Multiple resources are required for the use of this task. Firstly, a particularly great book, Welcome to Country, written by Auntie Joy Murphy and Lisa Kennedy, is a great resource which will help students understand the importance of gaining entry into an Indigenous community and, most importantly, Indigenous cultural grounds. When I chose this resource for the task, it was critical that it held educational value and did not offend or discriminate against Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. It was also critical for me to make certain that the book displayed Indigenous involvement. Secondly, resources such as community members are critical in the completion of this project, as community members ensure that knowledge learned is culturally represented and appropriate. Thirdly, Make It Count is a mathematical resource that provides educators with areas of mathematical learning and relevant tasks and resources that coincide with this learning. Make It Count was initiated by the Australian Government as part of the Close the Gap initiative. This resource is fantastic for the proposed task as it gives students the opportunity to learn mathematics through an Indigenous perspective relevant to the mathematics in the project. The importance of implementing a safe and inclusive classroom is crucial when conducting any classroom lesson. An inclusive classroom that is free from discrimination ensures that all children have their education valued and respected and is an essential step towards closing the gap. With this being said, the task has a strong emphasis on place-based pedagogies, meaning that the majority is conducted within the country and involves teachers and community members' knowledge. This also relates to the pedagogies that ensure the voices of community members are heard and learnt from. Multiple strategies are relevant to the proposed task to achieve the required educational outcomes. Such strategies include scaffolding student and literacy numeracy learning, which can enable students to build upon current skills and meet educational goals. Literacy groups where likeable interests are paired can also be a great strategy to foster in the classroom. Numeracy strategies such as hands-on visual and engaging prompts and cues, working with concrete materials, picture storybooks, role play, and things that depict mathematics. Furthermore, strategies such as embracing community members and students' families can have sound implications when conducting the proposed task. The implementation of Yunka Porter's 8 Ways strategy is of extreme importance in this project. The 8 ways of learning are referred to as Indigenous protocols and ways of learning to consider when addressing student progress. Firstly, in regards to the project, one way of learning that should be considered is land links. Land links are the 5th way of learning and are identified in the symbol of a river. LandLinks states that all plants, and more specifically animals, are linked and intertwined with the land, and the importance of understanding these links are crucial. When conducting the project, educators should hold a deep understanding of how to respect various Indigenous land protocols. This strategy can also be implemented and drawn upon by allowing a member of the community to participate in the project to ensure that it is conducted in an appropriate and culturally respected manner. Similarly, the importance of community in this project is essential. Community links are known as the final way of the 8 ways, which ensures that all community protocols and members are addressed and catered for. As stated by Yunka Porter in 2009, knowledge that is learnt within the classroom can also become the knowledge of communities. The English as an additional language dialect project maps are a tool for educators proposed by the Western Australian Government to help teachers to assess, plan and monitor students' work and achievements. Within the task, it is essential that elements and strategies of the EALD teachings are present. For example, the opportunity to scaffold students' learning with the ability to make clear steps in order to achieve success. This strategy provides students with the essential support to achieve required language and vocabulary. In addition to this, the emphasis on oral language is critical. Teachers should make focus on sounds directed from the local community language. The proposed task should also represent visuals for those students who struggle to register language with prompt speed. In regards to the assessment of students for the project, educators should make great links within the EALD progress map. According to the Government of WA, students in Year 4 under the subheading of linguistic features should be able to follow instruction for longer periods of time, understand main ideas, take explicit notes and relevant examples, understand protocols of the land and language spoken, and they can accurately relay verbal messages. Within means of vocabulary, students should be able to provide greater use of language and a range of words. Similarly, under the subheading of clarification, students should be able to follow instructions and ask questions. Student learning goals are a fantastic way to monitor how a student is progressing in regards to their learning achievements. The important process of monitoring and reporting on learning goals are essential in order to develop students who are increasingly learning in a particular field. In regards to the proposed activity, students will therefore create a goal they wish to achieve by the end of the activity. Firstly, educators will develop strategies that can be implemented to achieve these goals. Then they will monitor student goals and reflect upon these goals with the students. Finally, the reporting of goals where educators can see what students have achieved. This can be done through a supportive learning environment, an environment that promotes further independence, an environment where learning is reflective of student interest, and most importantly, a learning environment that has a strong connection to the community. Evidence of learning will be collected with the completion of a writing piece after the duration of the task. By the completion of this task, students should have a sound understanding of how to describe the relationships between living things and non-living things, as well as understand how Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people respect and appreciate the environment. By the end of the task, students should have a clear understanding of how to engage and interest an audience through the images, vocabulary, and language used in writing. Students will be able to provide work that shows examples of clear and concise sentences with the use of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander language and protocols. By the completion of this task, students should have a sound understanding on how to correctly predict the likelihood of events and have the ability to describe various methods of collecting and analysing data. Please see this list of references. Thank you for watching.